First of all, I think this is the plan as a whole between Department of Public Works Engineering and the Burlington High School School District has come together very quickly, as you've already recognized. And I think the plan as a whole is a pretty good one, knowing that you're going to have to finesse it as it goes along. I have mainly two comments here. One, I appreciate the fact that, again, DPW has identified additional bike parking spaces and where those will be, understanding that it may not be the end all of everything, but it serves an immediate purpose. My main concern would be, along with Commissioner Barr's and Vice Chair O'Neill's, is the security and safety of that area. And since there are cameras on both the College Street garage and the Lakeview garage in that area, is maybe the one on the corner of Lakeview could be repurposed maybe toward that bike parking area to ensure that if something should happen in that area, it could be covered. I don't know what cameras are planned for the backside of the People's Bank or on the backside of the old Macy's building as it is for that walkway, but I think it might add some, through COVID and the additional need for bikes. I know that we've seen some active bikes disappearing in this city. So it might be some added convenience or added safety to think about or ponder. The only other item I have is on Cherry Street, and maybe Philip can answer this for me because your diagram doesn't print out very well on my printer. But on the north side of Cherry, you have some drop-off zones, but are you still having some parking areas? Metered spaces? Yes? Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Well, my main viewpoint here is that there are choke points there, especially in the morning. If you ride GMT bus on a regular basis, they now straddle Cherry Street coming up the hill because of the activity mainly on both sides. And I think at the early onset, at least, since this is going to be massaged at least through the next couple of weeks from March 4th forward, at least I initially thought you should just make the north side mirror the south side of Cherry. But in the meantime, until you get to that point, you might want to bag those meters that will be exposed as a test to ensure that you have proper clearances. Because now when a bus going eastbound up Cherry Street typically has a tough time when a vehicle of similar size is coming westbound down Cherry currently. And that's something I've observed. And I think you might see that. I just think stepping off, understanding that this is going to be massaged and it's going to change. And I understand it's half the students. I'm just thinking that it's good to step off the curb properly from the get-go and not backpedal, and you can see really what's going on. That's just my only observations. And thank you very much for taking my comments.
Right. And so just to address that area in particular, so one thing that we had discussed is Chair Hogan had asked about some traffic calming elements. So for those crosswalks, we will be putting in with quick build materials using bollards, temporary curb extensions, and as you mentioned, Patrick, we will be adjusting things as we go. So I'm not sure if that addresses your concern. As far as the parking on the north side of Cherry Street, I mean, we recognize that vehicles will most likely be coming in both directions, so we want to make sure that that space is available. Yeah.
Observation. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that should close out public comment for this portion.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Golding. All right, with that, we'll bring it back to the commissioners seeking a vote on this item.
Make a motion to accept staff's recommendation as presented.
Thank you for that motion, Commissioner Barr.
Second.
Commissioner Bose, the second? All right, thank you.
Yes.
Is there any discussion around that motion? All right. Seeing none, bring it to a vote. Starting at the top alphabetically with Commissioner Archambault,
Aye.
Commissioner Barr,
Aye.
Commissioner Bose,
Aye.
Commissioner Gilman,
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Neill,
Aye.
Commissioner Overby.
Aye.
Aye for myself. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Moving forward, item 6, BSD rates, special temporary rate for BHS staff and students at Lakeview and College Street.
And here I thought I was done.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back. Do we have Mr. Paget or anyone from staff that would like to introduce this?
I am looking to see if he's here.
I don't see him.
I
in
think
my-
he's under the DPW communications and the attendees.
He's got a hand raised. Maybe we'll let in DPW communications.
There you go.
We are having some tech challenges. It is not allowing me to promote the DPW communications account over. I'll try again. Jeff, if you can hear us, you might want to try logging in under your account if you have access to a different account.
You might already be trying that. I no longer see him in the attendees.
Yeah, Zoom is super interesting. When I came in, I was my DPW engineering account, and it never gives me a choice when you're logging in through one of those city accounts that you create meetings under to change your name. So Rob, I'm not sure if you can change his name in that list, and then maybe it'll let him to come over.
Yeah, I did change the name. It is still giving me a failure to promote.
And maybe you should, maybe, I don't know, we can talk, let him know, but I mean, the way I log in is I use the agenda Zoom address and log in as my own person and then enter my email. Look, Jeff's here. Good, perfect.
I've allowed Jeff to talk. It's giving me the option to do that. He's still not a full panelist, so Jeff, your permissions might be a little
All
screwy
right.
here.
Am I in now?
Yep.
Oh, you can hear me. Oh, great. Sorry, guys. Because I use both the DPW communications Zoom account and my own, sometimes it launches me in, it chooses. So sorry about that.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm here now. So thank you, Rob, for fixing that.
Is there anything,
Jeff, I'm just going to add that you're promoted over as a speaker right now. I still can't get you over as a panelist, so I'm going to see if I can
That's fine.
add,
I don't.
add all the permissions you'll need if you're presenting, but you still may have some, you still may be blocked in some way.
No, that's fine. As long as I can talk, that's fine.
Okay.
All I have is the memo is all I have to reference, and I believe everyone has that, the other packet. So, all right. So thank you for your patience to that. But so now we're moving from the outside of the garage to the inside of the garage. And thank you to Laura and Philip and the rest of Norm's team that have been working hard on the outside of the garage because there are a lot of hurdles there. As soon as they get their signage designs all done, then my group will come in and put those signs up in the streets. That's just so you understand, that's how we operate. So as far as inside the garage goes, we have been working with the schools for the past couple of months, along in tandem with tech services, on the operations in the garage and specifically the rates and some of the ancillary issues around the rates. So what the request tonight is to approve a special contract with the school for parking we're estimating, 160 staff and 120 students. And We have negotiated a rate for the remainder of this fiscal year and next fiscal year. So FY 21-22, $10 a month per user. It will all be billed through the school. So we won't have individual contracts with each customer. It will all be managed through the school. And then for FY 23, it'll be $40 per user. So that's about a half price. It is exactly a half price rate for fiscal 23. So you'll notice you learned in the first presentation, this is a 3 to 4 year project, not a 2-year project. So what we've done is we've committed to these discount rates for the first couple of years, working with Nate Lavery in their finance department, because as you know, we are financially challenged and they are financially challenged. So we worked hard to find a rate that would be reasonable between the two of us for the short term, and then but not over commit us for the full 3 to 4 year period. So and included in the agreement, which is different. So I used I'm sure you remember we got a standard agreement approved by the commission for our use. We've modified that agreement to put a specific term limit on it, and we've modified it to include clauses that basically say if we incur additional costs that are due to the presence of the school, that we will work with the school to find a way to compensate us appropriately for those additional expenses. For example, if we need to hire security for, protracted amount of time, we want to find a way. We can't carry all of those costs. So that's the overview of the request for tonight. We're requesting approval to enter into this contract to extend these rates to the schools. Now, along with this rate conversation came the conversations around security. So some of the things and just general logistics inside the garage. One of the things we've been assured is that the garage is not a drop-off pickup point for the schools. We don't want a parade of cars cycling through the garage, dropping students off. Also, without having the bike parking in the garage, that saves us the worry of having bicycles cruising around in the garage. We are putting up new no smoking signs. We actually had to go through legal to make sure that we were actually legally allowed to, this was a space that was allowable to have no smoking signs go up. We have new signs going up that notify the public that video surveillance is in action. We have scheduled 2 ambassadors to be on duty when school starts for the first week to monitor what's going on inside the garage. So that we have a handle on how things are flowing. And because I'm also in charge of parking services now, what used to be called parking enforcement, that we actually have extra people outside on those first couple of days too, in the streets, not giving out tickets, but making sure people understand, not policing per se, but making sure they understand what the signs mean, that no parking here to here means don't park here to here. So sorry, I'm just rattling off a number of things, and feel free to cycle back and ask me questions about them. They're jumbled because that's kind of how we dealt with all of this. One of the other things we're working on right now is we do have cameras in the garages. Right now, those cameras go straight to BPD and go straight to hard drives. So they're recording, everything's recording, and we're working with Martha Keenan to get a computer set up in the garage that is a streaming monitor. So we're not recording what's going on, but we can watch what's going on. So that'll give our ambassadors an idea. If we get a rumor that there's some party going on the 4th floor, they can look at a camera and see what's going on and prepare and react appropriately. And I've been in direct coordination with the hotels also, explaining to them all the things that we've done to try to accommodate the schools and make sure they understand how to get a hold of ambassadors, how to get a hold of me, which they do because we have a good relationship. But just so you're aware that the hotels are very, they have all the similar concerns that everybody else does about the students coming in and faculty, just this mass of new people coming into the garages. And one of the other things, sorry, back to ambassadors. This demographic is a different demographic than our ambassadors are typically used to working with. It's a transient tourist type folks working in the marketplace, coming to the marketplace garage, or office workers parking in the Lakeview garage. That's the predominance of how it's split. Both students and high school staff is a very different demographic, and we're actually working with BPD to set up a de-escalation sort of conflict management training for our ambassador staff, so that they get some more skills on how to maybe deal with situations that they haven't had to deal with in the past. So sorry, it's a little bit of shotgun, but that's a lot of the types of things we've been dealing with. So, welcome questions, but again, what we're basically looking for tonight from you guys specifically is approval to enter into a special contract with the schools with the modified rates and the modified conditions relative to the schools' responsibilities around coordinating with us and making sure that they have contact information with us and make sure they have a parking manager and some of these specifics. So, Marty, I don't know if I forgot anything or you have anything else to say, but I'm happy to answer questions.
No, I think you did a great job, Jeff. The only thing I will point out, though it's really not probably significant to the commission, is we will be charged directly as a district for all the parking spaces. We will be charging some students for some vehicle parking, which is the same $10 rate that they paid for parking passes at BHS. But no teachers. We will not be passing that cost on to teachers. And we're providing those bus passes to students for 11th and 12th graders, and 12th graders will obviously have priority.
Thanks, Barry. Yep. So, yeah, happy to answer questions if you got them.
All right. Thank you both, Jeff and Marty, for that. Vice Chair O'Neill, start with you here.
Okay, thanks. Okay, this is a tough nut here. I know we need to deal with parking, but everything is so car centric. The single occupancy vehicle. I heard from a couple of residents who are really concerned, and I thought I'd bring it up with the parking issue as the car park issue as opposed to the drop off issue. But I guess this kind of fit, if it does fit to both. Parents just concerned that the focus is really on single occupancy vehicle, prioritizing single occupancy vehicle, and not incentivizing non-auto transport, and wanting to move beyond the single occupancy vehicle and consider the roles of public transit, walking, biking, etc. So this is what I'm hearing from folks. So as I look at now the fixed parking where people are going to leave their cars and store them downtown, couple questions here. So the streaming monitor, Jeff, that you mentioned, will that video still go to BPD?
Yes. This will just, so the issue with the way the system works now is because it's recorded on hard drive, the only people, it's a privacy issue. So that's why the BPD keeps those. Like, so if we know a crime happened and we know it happened at 4 o'clock, they will go and look at the video for us and then share the video with us as they can. They just basically don't want some sort of violent imagery being recorded that, so quote unquote, I could take and put on YouTube or whatever. So that's a privacy thing. But if it's a streaming video, we're allowed to watch the streaming video. So that, and honestly, that is probably not going to come until August, September timeframe, where there's a number of financial and technical issues surrounding that, how that will roll out. But that's something we're working on. And not just because the high school is there, but because we need that in general.
Okay. I think something like that really needs to be communicated to parents, faculty, staff, and students, that parking in that car park is going to be a different, potentially different interface than what they had, parking at BHS on Institute Road. And then you mentioned training for your ambassadors.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeff, I know you've got kids; they're not long out of BHS. That sense that some of your training was going to BPD to de-escalate, and so while I appreciate that, I wonder what role the school district can have in sort of diversity training. We have a pretty broad section of students, and how authorities interact with our students when they're going to park, and just hormonal teens, it's a whole different interface. So I think to complement any kind of de-escalation is also looking at diversity training as well. And I don't know what role the school district can have with that, but this responsibility of that the city is taking on as we're having minors utilizing our system in mass has some uncertain, I don't know how to say it in English, inquietudes, uncertainties about how that interaction is going to go. And then thinking about our students, and maybe this is to Marty. We're calculating, sorry, how many spots? 300 spots, some for teachers and some for students. Do we have a 911 map, a data map of where BHS students live, to kind of assume those numbers, or where did you get the data for figuring out kind of what student transportation might look like, or single occupancy vehicle in the
So the data for students is strictly driven based on the number of student parking passes that were issued for the last 3 years, which didn't exceed 100.
Okay. And so,
and sorry, there's also a process that's going out this week, notification to all students for them to make a request for those parking passes. So we'll have that information actually by the end of the week.
okay.
As to the number of students that are going to make those requests.
Okay. And you said priority goes to seniors and then juniors. Is there?
That's correct. We're right now. It's actually our numbers that we're capping at 100.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then what about the students who actually have a job they need to get to? Is there kind of that space in there to allow for like someone who's just got their license and is a sophomore? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately can't speak to how that determination is going to be made from, but for each student. But that's part of the messaging that's going to go out to the students this week. It was something we discussed at the town hall earlier today. However, I don't know the full details about that process.
Okay. And so then I guess back to Jeff, or maybe it was Marty, I'm sorry, that no teachers, so the contract is with BSD, the school district, and then the school district will capture the funds from the students, but not from the teachers. So are we asking Burlington taxpayers to subsidize parking for Burlington school district teachers? We're about to vote on the school district taxes. Help me square this. Why are the teachers not paying for parking?
From a school district's perspective, we're already asking teachers to make a very big change from what they're currently used to by working at Burlington High School to work at this downtown site. To also ask those teachers to pay for parking was something that the district did not want to ask of their teachers. Not to mention, it would probably have to be something that would be negotiated through their contract.
Okay. Okay, so they could get free parking if they parked at Institute Road and took a bus in to the downtown center.
They got free parking when they parked at Institute Road.
Okay. Okay. I think the term on this. So this contract, then you've got these 3 periods here. FY21, a 5-day permit for $10 a month, which is just ridiculously cheap, as our city parking is, struggling as well. So these timings, then you have, Jeff, let me see if I scroll down, that this particular contract would end on the June 30th of 2020. So I guess I'm wondering, what are we?
2023, is that a typo? I apologize if there's a typo.
I guess I would just like to kind of be able to reevaluate after this year, if then the school district has the opportunity to negotiate with the teachers on, an increased parking fee for next year. Yeah, number 4, term and early termination, or is that just termination? March 2021. Yeah, there's a typo.
Are you looking in the contract or in the?
Yeah. Page 2 of 6, the top of it.
I'll fix, that might be a clause from the standard contract that I did not successfully purge. That's
Okay.
not relevant. I will fix that. Because their term is, the intent is that the term is FY21, FY22, and FY23. And the reason we did that was we wanted to accommodate their financial challenges of FY22 because their budget has already been built. Their budget is done for FY22, and this is a load on their budget, and we're trying to help, frankly. And then we said, okay, let's give them some predictability for FY23, which is that $40. And we did some rough calculations, and we figured on a prorated basis, $40 to $50 range is about what it costs us to cover our personnel costs. So at least we're getting our people covered. Maybe, we're not getting all of our supplies paid for. We're not getting, our loans paid for and that stuff, but at least we're paying for our people at that point. And it is an increased volume, and it's an increase in activity, which we see as good for the garage, because the garage has been very, very quiet. So it's good to get anybody in there. And yes, $10 is ridiculously low, but it's $10 higher than where we started.
but you talked about like additional security, and again,
if we need to go,
Marty, picture, a 14-year-old coming out of BHS after dark, going into a car park. Who likes to go into a dark car park, and which level did you park on? And kind of going through there, what does the security look like? And again, is it a city or is it a school district? How do we reevaluate this? And how do we evaluate it before something happens? How do we be proactive on getting a sense from students and faculty and staff? What's the comfort level in the garage?
So during the day, they have the school resource officer that's there, who primarily works inside the school. But they basically, in our discussions, they've said the practical reality is that officer will be out walking in the garage. That's the reality. They will get out there. School staff also, I believe, like vice principal type staff do patrols through the building, and they will extend that patrol out into the garage, and we've asked them to wear safety vests and have identification with them so we know who they are, because we don't just want any random people walking through the garages. So yes, we are all very concerned about the security situation. But to be clear, you know, we are the city and they are the school, and this is the city's parking garage, and we're making as many accommodations as we possibly can. But fundamentally, if there needs to be increased safety infrastructure, personnel, costs of any kind, it's in the contract that we will pass those costs to the school as is reasonable, negotiate with them to pass them on. I mean, there may be some costs we incur because we want to, but if it's directly school related, we'd like to pass it over.
And I'll just add that we are a closed campus. Students, they will not have the ability to come and go from the building throughout the day. And we have access control at all entry points. So if students were to leave the building, they'd have to get buzzed back into the building. And that's not to say that students won't figure out some sort of loophole to skip school or whatnot, as we all have. But there won't be this coming and going of hanging out in the parking garage.
Right.
Okay.
I just wanted to go back to the talk around de-escalation training. We actually approached the school first about doing de-escalation training because they have done it. The school has done it themselves in the past, but they don't have the materials. So I worked with our health and safety person, Nicole Blow, and she reached out to the police department, and they have some ready, you know, sort of off the shelf type of stuff that they're sending over to Nicole, and then she's going to sort of collate it and post it up on our online training platform. So it's not like we're going to the police to get de-escalation training. We're just using resources that they have and going through that. But I will also ask about, I guess I'd probably start by going to school to see if you have any diversity training off the shelf stuff that we could add in there, because I think that would not be inappropriate. Also, I think we could do that.
Yeah, we have some resources there. We obviously use a consultant as well. So I don't know if we would be able to make that person available to you or have you participate in some of the trainings that we already do, but we can talk about that, Jeff.
Yeah. And just so you're clear, also, we have another meeting scheduled for the 25th on all of these security issues. You know, everything I've sort of rattled off tonight and what we've just discussed is we have another meeting to sort of finalize and make sure we're all on the same page. We've all got phone numbers and who to call and all that stuff.
Okay. All right. I think that's it for me. Maybe someone else will take over one of my battle cries. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Overby.
I only have a couple questions, and one of them was actually to point out that typo on the top of page 2 of 6, that should be the year 2023 instead of 2020, but you already found it. The two questions that I had were under the in the contract, under the timing restrictions. There's something that says parking duration is limited to 2 weeks of continuous parking on all products. I don't know what that means.
Means you can't park your car for more than 2 weeks continuously.
So that's the thing. But students, it's a Monday through Friday thing. The permit's Monday through Friday. But you're saying that if they just leave it there for 2 weeks, that's from a contract that's just the carryover. That really doesn't apply to the students.
Well, that's the generic contract.
Yeah.
So the ordinance says you cannot park your car there for 2 weeks.
Gotcha. So that was just carryover from the generic contract. That answered that question. I was thinking of it in terms of students. What does that mean? Okay.
Right. No, because we have customers that we sell under this same generic contract. They buy 10 7-day permits and 6 5-day permits. So that clause applies. You know, whatever your product is, whether it's a month product, a week product, or whatever we're selling.
Right. And it doesn't really apply to the school at all.
Yep. Exactly.
And then the options. There's options for different kind of permit credentials. Do you have what's the mechanism that you're using for the permits? Are they going to be something that's like a hang tag that can be exchanged by students or
No, QR code, just like so this is one of the things that is very explicit. When you get every person that has a permit in the garage, we have their name and their email address. We know there are no generic permits in the garage. We know every person who went in and when they went out based on their use of their permit, their QR code.
Okay, so they're flashing the QR code on a card of some sort.
At the entry gate, there's a scanner,
Right.
and they scan the QR code. The gate goes up, and then the garage says, "Okay,
Got it.
Joe Smith is in the garage." And then when they leave, they say, "Okay, Joe Smith just left the garage."
Yeah. Well, I just read the options that were there. The card, decal, hanging, whatever. So yeah, that's
again, it's because it's generic.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's okay. But I didn't see the QR code thing there, so barcode thing is probably it.
Barcode, yeah.
Yeah, barcode, whatever.
Yeah.
QR code, all it is a code that points you to a website. That's it. So people think it's more than it is. But anyway, those are my questions about the contract. I had some concerns about the $10 a month, but I totally think that we have to do it for now. And I'm a little, it'll be interesting how many students can be actually riding the bus. I don't know how many are able to ride the bus to school. I would think that's great. Sounds like it's being encouraged. But then again, the students that do have a job that they need to get to after school, that's a constraint. And some people can't ride the bus to a job. So I support the project here, and let's go forward. It gives some predictability. The next 3 years, we sort of know what's going to happen. My only thought was that I know I'm trusting you, Jeff, that you are on top of it as far as the number of permits that were given away. I mean, not given away, but actually committing to, because things can change in the next 3 years, and we know that's going to happen. So I'm trusting that we're not going to overcommit.
So for context there, Macy's, we had a MOU, a memorandum of understanding with UVM for them to move into Macy's. I don't know if you remember that or not. And that was, I believe, it kept changing, but it was for somewhere between 300 and 400 cars. So obviously UVM is not going into Macy's, the high school is. Right. So that's part of the reason why although they're predicting 120 students and 160 staff. Well, he already said tonight they're going to limit it to 100. So we're down 20. Well, 120 and 160 only adds to 280. So we bumped it to 300 to be a round number. So that's their allocation. That just means based in contract, that's their limit. And so we're happy to manage within that boundary. Right. I'm not worried.
I think we're fine. Thank you. Thanks. I think you're meticulous in your calculations. That's why I'm confident.
Well, challenge me anytime, because clearly I already made a mistake in the contract. So.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Archambault.
Yeah, I'll just be brief here. I mean, we are a city, Vermont's largest city, and we effectively don't have a high school, right? And this is the plan to make it work. I'm not here to micromanage this. If anything, I'm saying, Jeff and Marty, you tell us what we need to do to support you, because this has got to happen. This is not optional, right? So picking apart details of this, to me, is like, we need this to work. So we're looking to you. You carry a heavy burden on your shoulders right now. And I'm supremely thankful for all the work that's already gone into this. And I can only say you just tell me what to do and let's make it happen. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Barr.
Thanks. I appreciate and agree with many of the comments made by my fellow commissioners and by all of those that put a lot of work into this. I agree this is a critical and necessary challenge that needs to be fixed as quickly as possible. But I will also echo Vice Chair O'Neill Vivanco's comments about the free parking for the teachers. I work at UVM. I manage the parking there, and I got to say that there's never free parking. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the president of the university, a vice president. Everybody pays, because parking costs. And it is a little unsettling to me that, and I get it that there's a teachers union that needs to be negotiated with. I think that it needs to happen. It needs to be negotiated because putting their cost for parking on the taxpayers is challenging. It's how do we explain that to people who are getting additional costs because there's many needs that we need to fix Institute Road. We need to. There's so many different things that we need to do, and I'm all for supporting education, but parking is not a necessity. And I'll just say this, I get on a soapbox at my work all the time. Parking is not a right. It's a privilege. It's with all the great transportation that we have, and it can be better, but we've got good transportation in the area. There's many ways to get to this location that do not require a single occupancy vehicle. So, and if I will say this again too, and I know I have to deal with both parking and transportation in my role. So sometimes I'm in conflict with myself because I'm trying to get people to take transportation, which is actually my revenue from parking. But the biggest challenge is trying to use parking as a TDM measure to try and get people to use transportation. And if you make the cost of parking less of an incentive or more of a disincentive, then you'll get people riding bikes, taking the bus, carpooling, doing things like that. So I'm just throwing that out. I know that this is something we can't decide tonight. I'm in support of this right now, but I would like us moving forward, since there is the ability within this agreement to do some negotiations and talk about it. I'd just like to keep that in the top of our minds that, I agree that teachers have to do a lot, and we are asking a lot from them, Marty, to move from where they are now to where they're going to be for the next 3 years. But this is one of those things that's it's challenging. I'm conflicted. So that's it for me.
But I think that's why we limited the contract to those 2 years out of the 3 to 4 years that they're predicting, is because there are a number of, let's say, philosophical issues around exactly what you're saying. Is, the school is going to need some time to work with the teachers and or the union and with the students to find the right messaging for, ride the bus or whatever the alternative is. But that, the Herculean effort that the school is pulling off to get into Macy's right now. This we just spent the past couple hours dealing with a very small sliver of the minutia that has gone into this.
I get it.
So that's part of the reason why we stepped the rates to say, let's work you into the rates, and then let's cut it a little short so we can have these more challenged discussions in, in a couple of years once you got your game a little more figured out. So.
Right. And just obviously, no, it would not just be a high school discussion. It would be a full district discussion for all of our staff.
I think coming in the future, it's something that needs to happen. I know that I always get people asking me, why can't, how come I have to pay for parking? I work here. Well, because parking costs money. I got to enforce, I've got to paint the lines, I've got to remove the snow, I've got to fix the asphalt, all the things. That money has to come from somewhere, so somebody has to pay for it. And I think that since it's cars that cause that challenge, that cars should be paying for it. So that's me. I'll get off my soapbox. I just wanted to share that, and thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bose.
I don't really have too much to add to this. I'm very much in support of this plan. I would say, since Commissioner Barr and Vice Chair O'Neill Vivanco brought up this particular issue, I do think that it bears a broader conversation. I don't entirely understand the kind of the focus on the teachers free parking part of this, because that part of the argument, especially in I don't know, it seems very selective to say I don't understand why we would make this more accessible for the teachers in this particular moment, while recognizing the kind of the emergency situation that we're talking about more broadly. I understand these kinds of broader, in terms of the broader, kind of modes of commuting and modes of travel that we're talking about, but I'm a little uncomfortable with just fixating on this particular part of this. But again, perhaps that's something that we open up for a broader conversation in the longer term. As it is right now, I'm certainly satisfied with the plan as presented. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Gilman.
Nothing I want to add after all the great discussion. So I'm all set.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the concern on parking, but that, that's not in the contract here. Marty has volunteered that information. That's what that's their business of what they're doing with the parking permits that they're buying from the city here. It is, I think, crucial to remember that there is a high cost of free parking. On the other hand, teaching is one of the professions that has become incredibly more challenging this year than in past years. And I'm not just talking about moving to a temporary facility here, just like the nuts and bolts of what teaching looks like this year. Like it's a tough gig in the best of times, and it's a lot tougher now. And I'll leave that there. I trust what you all are up to here. I second the sentiment of my fellow commissioners that we should revisit the incentive structure for staff and how staff gets to work. That this may not be the right time, and I appreciate that again. Maybe it's a whole district-wide conversation, and I see staff triple parked at Edmonds. I gather that there's constraints there, and it's worthy of discussion there as well about how people are getting to their point of employment. We are so grateful for their care and attention in that profession. Anyways, yeah, I'm all good with this. I appreciate the work and the comments here. Just a quick scan of my notes, and I think everything has been come up in conversation here. All right, I'm good. This.
I've already fixed that typo. Thank you for catching that. 2020 should have been 2023.
All right, we're on it.
Yeah, done.
Looking to public comment. Mr. Goulding, is there anyone from the public who may wish to speak?
Chair Hogan, there's nobody signed up at this time.
Thank you for that. Back to the commission then, seeking a vote on this matter.
I'll move to pass staff's proposal here.
Motion from Commissioner Archambault. Thank you.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bose. Thank you. Is there any discussion around that motion? All right, seeing none, we'll go to a vote. Commissioner Archambault.
Aye.
Commissioner Barr.
Aye.
Commissioner Bose.
Aye.
Commissioner Gilman.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Neill.
Aye.
Commissioner Overby.
Aye.
Aye for myself. Motion passes unanimously.
Great.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time and your support this evening.
Yeah, no, appreciate the input and the conversation here, Marty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, moving forward, item 7, approval of draft minutes from our January meeting. Is there any discussion around the minutes? Ready to entertain a motion there?
I'd make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second that.
Sure, we have a motion from Commissioner Barr, second from Commissioner Archambault. Is there any discussion around that motion? All right, let's bring it to a vote. Commissioner Archambault.
Aye.
All right, Commissioner Barr.
Aye.
Commissioner Bose.
Aye.
Commissioner Gilman.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Neill.
Aye.
Commissioner Overby.
Aye.
Aye for myself. The minutes pass unanimously. Thank you. Director's reports. City Engineer Baldwin, is there anything you'd like to state on the director's report? We had a nice synopsis in our packet.
No, I think Chapin did a good job at communicating in advance of the meeting a long list of things that are ongoing. Certainly willing to answer any questions you might have as a result of those communications.
All right, thank you. If there are questions, let's take them in our commissioner communications. And for that, so close out the director's report. Thank you, City Engineer Baldwin. Moving to item 9, commissioner communications. Let's start with Commissioner Overby.
I just wanted to relay a direct communication I had from somebody who lives on Elmwood Avenue and was concerned about the enforcement process of the 2-hour section of parking on the sort of the end of Elmwood that's just right before you reach North Street. And his concern was that the mechanism of enforcement of how does the parking enforcement know that somebody has been there for over 2 hours when people could come and go. Let's say they work and they came home for lunch and then they, went back to work. And so I had quite an extensive communication with this person, and also linked in John King. And I had asked the person to come and speak if he wanted to, because he was concerned also about the price of $75 for a ticket for parking over 2 hours in a 2-hour limited parking place. So I gave him the statute. He was concerned that there was some discrimination potentially in that area, and was that the same everywhere in the city, which it is. So I gave him a lot of information, but I also wanted to just share with other people that the methodology that's used by the person who checks on vehicles that are in a 2-hour location is the checking of the location of the tire stem. So it's pretty. I mean, I was wondering if in the old days it used to be they chalked the tire and then write the time on or something. But just for other people to know, it's pretty much that the system is pretty much, you can't go home for lunch and then I mean it's as accurate as you could get. So he was concerned also that maybe other communities have ways for people that are lower income to not pay as pricey a ticket, and that there's mechanisms for that. But I think we realize that it is sort of one of those things. If you get the ticket, you got to deal with the city attorney, and that's the system we have, and that they do the best they can to be not putting a ticket on somebody's car who has actually not been there for 2 hours because they just came back from for lunch and they were there and it looked like they were. I just wanted to relay that information for other people, so that if there is other questions about that or concerns, I'm more than willing to share all the information that I learned through this communication with this resident of Elmwood Avenue. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Archambault.
No communications for me, please.
All right, Commissioner Barr.
Thanks. So as you can probably see from many minutes, especially during the winter months, I always give a lot of laudatory comments to the snow removal. I think that they're doing a fantastic job out there. Sidewalks, roads, safety. I think that they've done a phenomenal job. And I'll just give a plug to the entire DPW for the sidewalks and the roads that have been maintained and a lot of things. I really want to give you guys props for how great things have been going. I will just add too, based on our conversation, and I supported the parking and all that stuff, but I want to say this about the Burlington School District, I guess, as a whole, that's a place where students come to learn, and they're seeing how everybody reacts and performs and does things. And if we don't try and start educating them there about TDM and using alternative forms of commuting and mobility, they're just going to graduate from there and expect to go somewhere and be able to drive a car, single occupancy. So if there's one thing, and it's not for us to say, but I'm just saying it now so that it's in the communications, maybe the Burlington School District needs to have a sustainable transportation coordinator or a TDM person there to help educate and try and conform them. I have that at UVM. I know that there's a lot of different places that have those. I'm just throwing out that plug that it's very important, and we're trying to mold young adults into older adults, I guess. So that would be a good place to start. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Commissioner Bose.
Thank you. I just actually also following on that point, I wanted to clarify that, when my comments at the end of the parking discussion, I don't disagree with anything that Commissioner Barr or Vice Chair O'Neill have said to this sort of broader issue. I'm somebody who doesn't actually park at UVM. I commute by bike or by bus to get up there. My comments were more about feeling to some degree that we were fixating on one part of what seemed to be a broader issue. And I didn't really quite understand why we would sort of single out the teacher part of this, where it is a broader issue. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. In terms of my communications, what I wanted to relay is a question that was posed to me by a number of neighbors in the Pine Street and Flynn Ave neighborhoods. And so they asked me to raise this particular question. So this is the way they phrased it. Pine Street southbound vehicles at the intersection of Pine Street and Flynn Ave turn left onto Flynn when the light is green, even when the pedestrian's crosswalk light is on for crossing. This is hazardous for pedestrians, including school children and people walking to from work. There should be a red arrow for left turn when the crosswalk is lit for crossing. Having also been a driver in this situation, driving northbound and taking a left on Flynn, it is admittedly very difficult to react to a pedestrian in the crosswalk if you've already begun to take the left turn. Drivers are looking ahead and up at the light, beginning to turn and then encounter a pedestrian midway through crossing. This is known to many people in the neighborhood to be an incredibly dangerous and scary intersection. There are many near misses with pedestrians in the crosswalk. They have a walk sign. The remedy for this would be modifying the traffic light so there is a clear red left arrow or a no turn light, similar to the one indicating no right turns from Flynn onto Pine at that intersection, so everyone can cross safely without any traffic movement. Again, there are many neighbors aware of this hazard, and if it would help to have others write in or come speak at the meeting, please let me know. There are multiple requests on C-Click Fix from over the past year, but no action has been taken. So I agreed to bring this forward to the commission, and hopefully I can communicate with staff following this meeting. I'll follow up with staff to see what's been kind of done to either address or respond to this concern.
So Chair Hogan, do you want me to respond to that concern?
Please.
Yes, so we're well aware of the concern that the public's expressed. There's been some communications from our signal technician over, I think, some period of time, and I don't know precisely how long it's been in conversation. I think he attempted to communicate that to make significant change would require some significant capital investment. We did meet last week as a city team to look at the issue and are trying to assemble some solutions, and this was raised to C-Click Fix through Councillor Mason, and I am due to respond back to him. I am the point person on that issue, so I will certainly copy members of the commission and himself when we are prepared to kind of give a more formalized response. But effectively, we have two signal projects that are in queue that are related to school safety already. And we're looking to figure out how this project could potentially fit within either time or resource. And we have some ideas. So we're working on it. It's not, I guess, being discounted or ignored. It's really just comes down to what can we do to kind of change people's behaviors. I think it is going to require significant capital investment because, frankly, people are really simply not yielding to pedestrians even when they don't have that protected movement.
Having gone through that intersection, I recognize that, but this is really good to hear. If you wouldn't mind either copying me on just so I can update them that clearly there's work being done on this.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
Thank you. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Commissioner Gilman.
Nothing from me tonight. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Vice Chair O'Neill.
So the parking thing at PHS. Yeah, I do want to revisit this. It feels like the school district is this, municipality within the municipality that doesn't have to have a transportation management plan, that doesn't have to promote active transportation, that doesn't have to comply with the walk bike master plan and or a net zero energy plan. So it just feels like, let's get the conversation going. That said, as the parent of a high schooler, we need the high school open. So if we have to subsidize the teachers' parking, and no one's subsidizing anybody else's parking at UVM, but if we have to subsidize the teachers' parking to get the school open, then so be it. But I do hope that we can have conversations more about transportation at the school district. And then to echo what Commissioner Overby mentioned, I was going to bring up something similar on Overlake. A neighbor came to me because we have 4-hour parking between 8 and 4, and he had a contractor at the house, and the contractors apparently can park on the street if they have they can go beyond the 4 hours if they have like a decal. But this is a, small, like one guy shop operation. He doesn't have a decal. So he parked and then he left and then came back, and he got a warning. But my neighbor wanted me to push this forward again. How does the parking attendant really qualify that the person has been there a full 4 hours? And this isn't the first time this has come up. I was a victim once too, because if you happen to be parking, and I don't think they look at they don't look at the stems of, I think it's just your car was here in this general area at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then it was here later on in the afternoon, and then you were there the whole day. So I wonder if there are better systems to track time, and maybe there aren't, but at least to figure out what kind of explanation we can give people to say, well, you can only have contractors who have decals on their car to park on the street, or you have to have some kind of timestamp on. I don't know.
I would suspect that they probably take a timestamp picture of a vehicle in position and use that for enforcement. But I think Jeff could confirm that, given he's now managing the enforcement team.
Okay, because it's not a perfect, it's not a perfect science. I mean, when I got the warning, I had moved my car out to let a contractor in, and then came home, the contractor was still there and just left the car at the end of the driveway, which is probably around the same spot. And she was about to give me a ticket. I'm like, I just got here. So
I don't know.
I don't know if there's a better system with these sort of weird time frames.
I will let Jeff be. I guess I'll share with Jeff the concern that members of the commission have expressed, and hopefully he can communicate back to you how they approach that.
Okay, thanks. That's it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I have nothing further on my end. And with that, I'll close Commissioner Communications, bring us to agenda item 10, adjournment and next meeting date, March 17th.
Motion to adjourn. Oh.
Second.
Oh, who's not in there? Was that Commissioner Archambault with the motion?
Take your pick, Chair Hogan.
You can have it, Commissioner Archambault.
Okay, with Archambault.
All right, there we go. By a nose.
Okay. Any discussion around that motion? And we'll bring it to a or open vote here. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned, 9:37.
Excellent.
Good evening, all. We'll see you March 17th.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Hey, good night, everyone.
Thanks so much. Take
Bye.
care.